So this week, I was looking at my daughter this week. And as I was looking at her and she was talking to me and we were gazing at each other, I looked deeply at her eyes. And as I was looking into her eye, I thought to myself, or rather the thought emerged in me, that she will be seeing through these eyes for her entire lifetime. And I looked at those magnificent eyes and I just dove into them and I honored them, and I kind of basked in the mystery and the beauty of how incredible these eyes are, how these eyes will support her for her entire life. Like she's here as a little one now, and these eyes will be looking at the world, and they will be her eyes, the eyes with which she perceives the world long after I'm gone. And I thanked them. I just looked at them and I thanked them, and I looked at them as if I was kneeling at a sacred altar. We talk sometimes about the mind-body connection when we talk about spirituality, but we don't always embrace the fullness of that practice, the fullness of what a spiritual practice around the mind-body connection can be. Think of what your eyes have seen. Just think for a moment what your eyes have seen. From the greatest of sights to the most intimate moments. Let your mind just wander through the glory of what your vision has brought you, what your body allows for you to do and experience, what your hands, what your mind, what this body temple allows you to be present to. It's pretty incredible, isn't it? It's really pretty incredible. Life is precious. It's sacred, both the mind and the body, and how they support us on this planet, how this earth suit creates an experience on this planet. Pat Ogden said, "The body always leads us home. If we can simply learn to trust sensation and stay with it long enough for it to reveal appropriate action, movement, insight, or feeling." The Buddha teaches this statement: our body is precious. It is our vehicle for awakening. Treat it with care. Our body is precious. It is our vehicle for awakening. Treat it with care. Have you considered the possibility that your body is a vehicle for your awakening? Your body is a vehicle for awakening. I'm going to consider our tap, tap, tap as being spirit just knocking, saying, listen, listen to this. Because a lot of people don't take their bodies as being a spiritual practice, right? It's not something that we think of. And even if we think, okay, I'm here, I should steward this body, we don't step into it as a conscious and power-filled spiritual practice. We also underestimate the power of the body to speak to us, the power of the body to deliver our intuitive truth and our knowing. And there is a world of development out there for those who are ready to dive into the intelligence of the body. Many of you that may have body workers know how incredible body work can be, and how someone that has taken training and has dedicated their lives to understanding the language of the body becomes an incredible healer and can assist people in healing things that even psychologists and psychiatrists can't get to, that even spiritual readings in a spiritual book doesn't get to, that even relationships and living your life on the planet and trying to be awakened and conscious doesn't get to. Because your body has an intelligence that is uniquely and perfectly designed to support your well-being and you're living in freedom and peace. Do you believe that? If that's new to you, I invite you to just try this on, just test it out, your body as a spiritual practice. This is no small part of the spiritual practice. And in fact, Fillmore's taught about the mind-body connection and how important it was, and it is. It's often left out of our practices. Why, I wonder? Well, we don't like to put much restriction on how we treat our bodies, do we? We don't like to put much restriction or have any sort of seeming outer authority dictate what we do to this body temple or how we use this body and this mind. What is your relationship with your body? Is your relationship with your body a spiritual practice? Is your stewardship of your body and your mind a spiritual practice? You know, I have this idea when anyone has difficulty with their body or their body image, and, you know, as analogies go, they break down if you take them too far. But for the most part, the body you've got right now, it's so good. It is so good and so amazing. And it is the best one you've got in this moment, right here, right now. The likelihood is overall, this is the best time in your life for your body. Do you hear that? It's a little depressing on some level, but in every present moment, this is your body's best. Now, I'm not talking about if you feel a little bit sick tomorrow or whatever it is down the road, but I'm saying right now, your body is in the prime condition for the rest of your life. Right now, your body is in the best condition for the rest of your life. And that's true, your rest of your physical life, I should say, on this planet. And that is true tomorrow. And that's true the next day. And that's true the next day. So anyone who sits there and says, oh, it's not good enough because this or that, right now, right here today, it is. It's magnificent. In whatever it is allowing you to do, it is magnificent, and it is showing up for you, even if it's having struggle, even if there are conditions that are affecting it, even if there are seeming limitations, it is right here, right now, maxing out for your benefit, trying to support you, being the ears, the eyes, the sensations, being the vessel that houses your soul in this human experience, in this human condition. That's incredible. But we don't always treat it like that. We don't always take care of it, do we? I was just doing pickup the other day for lunch. I just ordered out. I didn't actually pick it up, but I ordered it out and I had it brought over, and I ordered actually like kind of a light version of what I normally order, you know, like I like to get to pick my favorite things. So at every type of restaurant, I have my top things that I love. So if it's Mexican food, I really like a burrito. I really like a chili relleno, and I have to have Mexican rice, and then I can't go without the beans. So blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I ordered one of the lunch specials that just had, you know, one thing and then the two little sides. And then I ordered on the side a little guacamole, like tostada thing, because, you know, gotta have the guacamole. And then I wanted to get the free queso, you know, that if you get enough, it comes with the free queso. So I got that. And anyway, you know, long story short, I had a little buffet there. And I was amazed. So the one thing that I put on at the end, I forget what it's called. I don't know, but it's where you get a little corn tortilla, you get a little beans, you get a little cheese, you got some lettuce, and then you got guacamole. It's not a guacamole tostada, but it's the one with beans. It's like that. And normally that's, you know, a little like on the healthy side for me. It's not smothered, you know, not rolled up and smothered with a lot of cheese. But I got it. And what my experience was compared to before this time where I'm making food for myself. Now, I want restaurants to thrive. I want their doors to stay open. A tosta guac. Someone just messaged in the Zoom room that it's a tosta guac. I think it's called a chalupa on the menu. But I I was totally present to the fact that I had way too much food. And even, I mean, I took like 3 bites of the reno and I was done. And what I was more attracted to eating was this more, you know, on the healthier side, the guacamole tostada thing, which is not my norm. And I didn't even get the burrito. But what I realized is that my capacity to eat what I used to eat has significantly diminished. So, and you know, you're not talking like even getting started with the chips and salsa for 30 minutes before the food comes, because I can order and reorder that. I don't even go to the places that like charge you for the chips and salsa, because I'd be over my budget just by eating the chips and salsa. So what I recognized is that my self-care has increased during this time of being more conscious around food and going less with craving, aversion, and going more with consciousness. And what I was keenly aware of was even the amount that I spent on this food, not only did it not serve my body's highest and best, but none of it was organic, right? And if I did that at home, not only could I create the same thing, but I could create organic. So have we honed in on our ability to assess our consciousness around our bodies and what we put in them, and around our minds and what we do to them and in them and through them and as them? Because it is a bit of an awakening when we take on the body as a spiritual practice. How is your mind? How is your mind? Are you treating it well, or is there some mind mistreatment going on? Is your mind a friendly place? Because you are the creator of your weather. You are the creator of your environment. So in your mind and in your body, you play God. You hear that? In your mind and in your body, you play God. You determine the weather. You determine if there is a storm. You determine if there is sunshine. You are the steward of your body temple. Are you setting it up to fail, or are you setting it up to succeed? Now in Unity, we teach oneness. We teach that God is in us, through us, as us, that God is the deeper reality underlying all things, and that there is no place that God is not. That you, in fact, are an expression and an emanation of God. And so is this amazingly designed body temple that you have emerged seemingly in, but are not contained by or confined to. Did you know that the top vegetable for children under 2 is let me hear it, guess number 1, guess number 2. What's the top vegetable for a 2-year-old and under? French fries. I saw someone go, French fries. Raise your hand if you consider a French fry as a core vegetable. We got a couple takers in the Zoom room. If you are on Facebook, go ahead and post. Do you consider a French fry a core vegetable? Do you know that some people put Mountain Dew in baby bottles? Yeah. There are some places in the South that it's even marketed. It had been marketed. I don't know if it's still happening now, but marketed to give your little ones soft drinks and things like Mountain Dew. Everyone, I think, knows the experiment where you take a tooth and you put it in a thing of soda. I was a teacher, and you do that. You do it for all the kids. It should be done probably by every teacher every year. But you take that tooth. I mean, nothing will erode it to, you know, like they're here for a lifetime unless you soak it in a soda. Soak it in a soda. Now, would you put Mountain Dew in a baby bottle and feed it to a baby? No. No. No, sir. No, ma'am. And if you do, you call me. Do you know something? You are God's baby. You are God's baby. Now, this isn't me teaching and preaching and telling you what to eat or what not to eat. You let go of all of that for your own discernment, but you hold on to this statement that you are God's baby. and you create the environment in which that baby lives, moves, and has its being. So where is your growing edge? What is for you to hear, to awaken to listen to see? In the nursery rhyme by Wayne Fields, it says, the 6 best doctors, what are they? Sunshine, water, rest, air, exercise, and diet. So I find it fascinating that people who have often developed a high level of spirituality or intelligence have a spiritual practice around the body. It is not a foreign idea to world religions that there is a spiritual practice around food, around self-care, around the mind, fasting, eating certain things or not eating certain things. Even unity has a history and a background with food as a spiritual practice. Do you know what it is? Raise your hand if you know what it is. Post on Facebook if you know what it is. Now, raise your hand if you've never heard of it. You know, or you don't know much about what did Unity teach about food? What did the Fillmores say about food? We take the Fillmores teachings on prayer. Those are high and holy in our movement. We take the Fillmores teachings on meditation. We take the Fillmores teachings on the ability to heal the body. But Myrtle Fillmore was very clear, and Charles Fillmore wrote about it, that fresh air is incredibly important. In fact, fresh air is why they bought the Village grounds here in the Kansas City area. The ministry started and the movement started around Tracy Street and the Temple and the Plaza. And then they bought this farm. They called it Unity Farm. And they began to grow vegetables, and they began to go out there for retreat and renewal time so they could have fresh air and healthy food. You know, they cared even so much about the chickens that they fitted them with rose-colored glasses because it kept them from pecking each other to get blood. You know how chickens will do that. They'll peck each other. They cared enough about the wildlife and what they were cultivating that they fitted their little chickies with rose-colored glasses. So what did they teach about the body? They taught about what you put in the body, that it matters. In fact, they had one of the premier cookbooks of the time that was a vegetarian cookbook. They were based in the middle of the Midwest, which I would say our state is a little bit the bacon capital of the United States right now. If anyone hasn't noticed that, if you live in Missouri or if you've ever come to Missouri, I will tell you, in Missouri, you will get anything wrapped in bacon. You can get asparagus wrapped in bacon. You will get bacon on this, bacon on that, bacon all around everything. But the Fillmores had a great teaching on vegetarianism. They taught that honoring your food was part of the spiritual practice and a path to awakening enlightenment. Now, does that mean we all need to be vegetarians? That is up for everyone's discernment. In fact, Charles Fillmore, towards the end of his life, did start eating meat again. I think he ate fish, and I'm not sure if he ate chicken. He ate some white meat, I believe, at the end of his life, because what he got through his intuitive nature was that this is what my body needs for its strength and its endurance. But I bring this point up not because we all need to become like-minded in the area of what we do, but because we all have an incredible opportunity for self-development through mindfulness and a spiritual practice around what we do. Now, the ego likes to throw out this whole part of the practice because, you know, I, for one, I'm sure I'm lactose intolerant, but there is no way that I am going to give up pizza. I mean, I am on the planet partially to eat pizza, and I'm not giving that up. I mean, if it totally affected my health in a serious way, not just making me homebound, or no, I've figured out a system for myself. As long as I have a little bit, I can do it and I'm okay. But it's just that we sit on such potential. And it also teaches us a lot about the inner environment that we create for ourselves. And it teaches us a lot about what we can do to help ourselves thrive. You know, I have people in my life that will not skip their exercise. They will not forego their run or their elliptical machine, their hike or whatever it is. Why? Because they have learned their bodies so well that they know in order to, for them, stay off antidepressants or anti-anxiety medicine, they must have a spiritual practice around exercise. They must stay committed to it, because when they do, they live in an entirely different environment than when they don't. And for these individuals, they have experimented with all sorts of ways to help that. And exercising is the simplest way to keep the mind-body connection healthy. So have you experimented and have you explored? I think it is interesting that people that are connected, one, you know, world spiritual practices, but also if you listen to these quotes from some prominent intelligence names, listen to this and see what you think about body, mind, intuition, and listening, and what that can open up for us. Albert Einstein said, my primary process of perceiving, hear this, my primary process of perceiving is muscular and visual. Muscular and visual. Now, that man perceived a lot, and his perceptions benefited us all. He learned enough about his being and his body and his senses to know how to listen, and I'd say how to eavesdrop on the mind of God, because that mind was used to create a world that works for all. That mind was used for the benefit of society, to benefit him and to benefit all, because he honed in on his spiritual ability to listen. Thomas Edison said this. You almost wonder if these are true. You can fact check me. Great ideas originate in the muscles. Great ideas originate in the muscles. Carl Jung. Often the hands will solve a mystery that the intellect has struggled with in vain. Often the hands will solve a mystery the intellect has struggled with in vain. Now, I share those just because I think those are some great minds and some odd quotes. Some things that seem a little obscure and we wouldn't know about them. But what that tells me is that they were deep listeners and they were stewards of their mind-body connection. They dove into themselves to know thyself so deeply that they began getting other things. Now, Charles Fillmore, he got intuitions and ideas and kind of little knocks at the door through his sleep, right? Well, he must have been good at creating an environment that was conducive to having a really good sleep, right? And through that, a lot of what we get to experience today was created because he followed those intuitions through his dream time. He would get dreams. So are we caring for our bodies? Are we learning our bodies? Your body holds one of the most advanced guidance systems available. The body never lies. It holds the key to a deeper form of listening. Addictions speak. Did you know that? Addictions speak. Even Merle Fillmore has a whole thing on addictions and what addictions are about. And it's so emancipating. It's so freeing because she teaches that we can listen and listen and listen. She says that people that have addiction issues actually just have a heightened spiritual life and this drive for spirituality. And sometimes that is so uncomfortable to have on this planet that often shuts it down, that the intensity leads one to mute their senses through addiction. A spiritual practice, much more liberating than thinking you're just flawed or faulty or you can't get it together when everyone else can. Illness speaks, stress speaks, the body speaks. And when we learn the body, we can decode messages for ourselves. Learning your body and listening is a path to God. It's a path to awakening. Rollo May said, it's amazing how many hints and guides and intuitions for living come to the sensitive person who has ears to hear what his body is saying. Mirka Knaster said, to connect with our bodies is to learn to trust ourselves. And from that comes power. To connect with our bodies is to learn to trust ourselves. And from that comes power. So can we treat our bodies as God does, as God energy, God force, God intelligence did in creating them? This body has been given to you. It's good enough to care for ourselves and treat ourselves. And we all know if we listen deeply, we'll all get the blueprint of what this care looks like. I mean, the bodies can handle a lot. The bodies can handle a lot. So this practice isn't saying, oh, I don't get to have any more fun. That's not what the practice is saying. I don't get to have any more fun. But you know, I have a beloved from a long time ago who was an alcoholic, and in replacing and letting go of alcohol, they started doing diet sodas. And you know, that can be a step up for sure. Like that can save someone's life, right? But on the same note, the number of diet sodas that would be gone through in a day, like imagine what so many inappropriate jokes are coming to my mind right now, but we've all seen things that we just go, wow, can anybody drink that much? I didn't know anyone could drink that much. Like I couldn't drink that much water. But you know, when you put that much in your body, that much sugar, you know, it's a good test to say to yourself when you're eating something, when you're drinking something, could I drink this much water? Could I eat this much broccoli? And just let that be a little litmus test to see how am I treating my being, but help the brain, help the body. And this replacement idea is a good one. It is a technique because we know the practice that when there's a void, you know, if there's a void, something else will hop in there. So you want to be really conscious of the voids. But again, be conscious. It's kind of like tithing. Like when you're tithing, you don't usually start with tithing 10% of your income. You start with going, I don't want that place to close, or everyone else is doing it. Let me just put $5 here, $3 there. And then you go, okay, wait, let me make this a practice. Let me become more conscious of it. Here is my conscious intention. And you start following that. And then you start going, well, okay, now I have the goal of tithing. So I'm giving consciously, I'm giving consistently with the goal of tithing. And that's generally how people arrive at tithing. Some people just right off the bat, but it's the same thing with the body and how we care for and treat the mind-body connection, the mind and the body. We don't start with just overhauling our whole brain and going, I can't think any of those thoughts anymore. They're all toxic. No. We start making little rules for ourselves and putting in something where there's a void. Like I want to take off that record. I want to stop playing that record in my mind because it is creating some weather that makes for some slippery road conditions. So I'm going to take that record and I'm going to let it go. But instead, I'm going to put in this. I'm going to put in this affirmation. And then you work from there. Same thing with the body. My greatest successes as far as body and health and what I do and what I put in it, because I do feel like I'm here to be alive and I'm here to enjoy this sentient universe. I'm here to enjoy food and what it has for me. As one of my great friends just said to me not too long ago, when we were talking about having morsels of chocolate, like it's just not worth it to me not to, to restrict myself, like I get to have my treats. Absolutely. So with that being said, and with knowing that my greatest success when I know something is not good for me, and what I'm talking about here is there was a time when I was drinking regular coffee, and I remember being at Unity of Montclair in my office, and I hadn't had coffee that day. And this happened multiple times, but this time I got such a headache, it filled my entire head, and it was caffeine withdrawal. And I was never even a big coffee drinker, but my body was so sensitive to the caffeine in that way. And it was so terrible. And I was throwing up, I threw up, and I'm laying on the floor in my office with the door closed, hoping no one comes in to need me because my head is just pounding. Our bodies speak. And don't they deserve to have stewards that listen? So what I did was I started praying about it. And I know that may seem funny. I also used to love soda. I used to love soda. Now, if I have soda, there's going to be rum in it, and I'm going to be with a friend. Is that bad to say? I'm going to have a rum and Coke. If I'm going to have a soda, it's going to be a rum and Coke. Otherwise, it's just like pouring maple syrup in my throat. So I'm getting reactions in the Zoom room, which is pretty fun. If you have never experienced the Zoom room, hop on in, because you get to have that familiar Sunday morning feeling. You get to see the people that go, oh, how obnoxious, the people that laugh. You get to just experience the fullness of the service in a different way. So consider it. But I used to love soda. It was just one of my things. You know, I grew up on meat. I grew up in Indiana. I grew up on meat, bologna sandwich, and ground beef. I just cook up ground beef and just squirt ketchup in it as it's cooking and then just spoon it up. I grew up drinking soda. I grew up eating Doritos and chips, and not that I don't ever eat Doritos anymore, because I do. But here's my point. When I tried to just stop doing something, it was too hard. And so I started praying about it and saying, if this isn't good for my body, whatever this habit is, whatever it is that I'm doing, if this is not good for my body, show me how to lift myself out of it and create a different habit. And what I learned and what I got for myself, and we can all share what our own insights are, what works for us. But what I learned for myself is not to deprive myself of something, but instead to introduce something else. So one of the things I loved about soda was that fizzy, delicious little that you get. And I started drinking seltzers. And at first I hated it. I didn't like them at all. And the more I did it, I started actually preferring the seltzer, and the soda started tasting different to me. And even now, you know, if I couldn't even drink a whole one, or if I do, I'll have sugar bumps. I call them sugar bumps on my cheeks. And I feel kind of like sticky inside. Like I just didn't take care of myself. We won't do that too much. And I did the same thing with the coffee, and I started exploring different things, and I tried to make tea cool. Hear me on that? Because a lot of stuff is psychosomatic. It's like, oh, we see a lot of commercials about coffee, and coffee is just something fun to do, and you got your little cup and it's warm, and coffee might be good for you. It might not be your coffee thing, but I was getting terrible reactions. But boy, having that warm cup of coffee, so good. But I started trying to just pray in making tea cool. Like what does this feel like to hold my tea? And oh, my little tea bag's hanging out, and I'm making my tea, and let that be nurturing, let that be comforting, and know that I'm doing something good for my body. And then I also discovered something called bio coffee, which is an alkaline decaf coffee drink that has wheatgrass in it. And that might sound gross, but it was actually great. And I started doing that, and that gave me back my little coffee feeling. But to try to put something in its place and start easing and moving something in and something out so that you can actually begin to want the thing that is best for you. Invite your being and your body to start desiring the thing that is best for you. One of the articles that I read recently on goals and on New Year's resolutions and on activating your good said that too often human beings try to make resolutions and try to make changes for themselves by saying what they can't have. By saying, here's the list of what you cannot have, don't do it, don't go there. What do you think happens with the psyche? What do you think happens with the mind, with the ego? I mean, I literally can't say I'm not going to have something even for a month, because you know what, the next day I will be in that food's face, becoming one with it. That's just how I'm wired. The second I think it's going to be taken away, I'm like, come to me. I need you. And this article just said too many people do that, and they make negative goals for themselves, and they fail. But what does work, what research shows works much better, is setting up positive goals for yourself. What will you do? What will you put in there? So what does that look like? That looks like, rather than saying, I'm going to cut out X, Y, and Z, talk about what you are going to have. And have it first. I am going to have more vegetables. I am going to drink more water, because you know what happens? You start filling the void. And if you have a belly and it can contain so much stuff before it explodes, what happens if you first go for the vegetables or the healthy white meat or whatever it is that you're putting in the space, and first you go for the water, and what you start filling up that tank, don't you? And you are much less likely going to gorge yourself on something that's not good for you, or drown yourself in something that's not good for you, if you are already filled up to a conscious level with what is good for you. So all you need to do is make a little adjustment, right? And put the good thing first. Do the good thing first. You can only eat so much in your meals. So if you say, I'm going to include vegetables in my meals, you're going to be more full when the other stuff comes around. Think about the brain benefits, the mind-body benefits. Think about how you can create an environment within yourself, whether it be rest, whether it be fresh air, whether it be the food that you have, the liquids you drink, the time you keep. But think about how you can engage in the mind-body connection as a spiritual practice. You may say, what does this have to do with God? You've said spiritual practice, spiritual practice, spiritual practice. What does it have to do with God? I say everything. When I got here to Unity Village Chapel, I think it's been long enough I could talk about this safely. 10 years ago, I came in and I waited a little while, but what I noticed was that at fellowship, there were donuts and there was juice mixed with either a Mountain Dew or a Sprite, 7-Up or something like that. And that was the fellowship food. And I had a couple of parents tell me that they couldn't bring their kids even down there because if they brought their kids into the room, the kids were going to go for all that stuff, right? And so what I did is I started talking to people and saying, let's try to bring some fresh foods and this and that. And I also got complaints that none of the people that volunteered, nor anyone that didn't rush over to the donut table even got a donut, because they were so very popular that within 5 minutes, sometimes even before the service got out, the donuts were gone. And there's nothing wrong with coffee and donuts and, maybe a shot glass of Mountain Dew with juice. I'm being obnoxious today. But I started inviting in this shift and just saying, let's just start to shift and just see what it sounds like, see how we go. And this incredible board member that was so supportive said, I'm going to just start augmenting this shift. And he just started bringing vegetables and apples and healthy foods. And we just started making the shift before I did the great pull. And then I did it, friends. I did it. I shouldn't say I did it alone. With board support, we did it. But we pulled the rug out of the donuts and the soda. And we had the juice and we said, let's add seltzer to the juice. And juice without sugar. Juice that is just juice because juice is sugar, right? And then we pulled the donuts. And, oh, friends, I almost lost my job. Friends, I almost lost my job. I certainly lost a lot of love. And I considered even a fundraising campaign that would say something nasty about me, like the whatever who took our donuts, with a big donut on the front and my face in the middle, like all mean, like the woman who took the donuts. And it wasn't that it's not okay for donuts to show up, it's that we're in a spiritual community and we're in a spiritual practice that is based on and founded on health and wellness and well-being, mind, body, and spirit. And we need to step up and be in integrity with that rather than having service-sponsored, church-sponsored, spending our tithes to create what we know creates the opposite, right? So that's different than us sharing treats with each other. I'm the first in line when a few of our amazing cooks cook treats. I'm the first in line. But that's different than creating a consciousness of, here, let's drink up this spiritual nourishment, and then let's all saturate our bodies with sugar. Amen. And so one congregant came to my office incredibly upset, pretty angry. And he said, you can't take the donuts. I can't believe you took the donuts. We need to have them back. And I want you to know we didn't hire you to be our doctor. We hired you to be our spiritual leader. And you should stick to what you were hired to do. And my heartfelt response was this. One of the number one ways people feel abandoned by God is when their body gives out on them. My work, my job puts me in an intimate place with people and with the human condition. And if there is anything I can do to help people feel their connection to God, feel how incredibly supported we are, and how their body temple wants to thrive, and how we can support that to the best of our ability, I'm going to do that because that's my job. When you've been with people that have had awakenings and realized that they were doing something themselves that actually created a toxic environment for either their brain functioning or their rest or their body temple, and then they awaken to that and they learn how to care for themselves, they learn how to listen to the body's intelligence. That is worth everything. And in our unity history, if we look at the roots of the history, the shoots that grow out of that roots are mind, body, consciousness connections. So, can we set positive goals for ourselves rather than telling ourselves what we can't do? And I understand I am speaking this truth on a funny Sunday because there is some fun about to happen today. And that fun entails eating some fun things too. But overall, in general, can we look at what we make room for and try to go for the good stuff first? Set positive goals, not negative ones. Go for the good stuff first and start inviting your prayer practice to encompass your body health too, and ask, what will make this cool? What will make this fun? How can I make my self-care inviting? How can I fall in love with what loves me? Sweet Spirit, let me fall in love with what loves me. Because we're the only ones that can be here for ourselves. We're the only ones that determine how this body gets to be on the planet and how we can maximize that. There are enough things that happen that challenge the body physically and emotionally. It doesn't need to be ourselves. And at the end of our lives, we don't need to be asking ourselves, what did I do? What could I have done? All of us may do that. But what will bring us deep peace is knowing that in each moment we did the best with what was available to us. And the best at some points in our life may not have been good enough, but the moments we had awakening, we began stewarding. We became conscious. Clarissa Pinkola Estes says, the body is a multilingual being. It speaks through its color and its temperature, the flush of recognition, the glow of love, the ash of pain, the heat of arousal, the coldness of non-conviction. It speaks through the leaping of the heart, the falling of the spirits, the pit at its center, the rising hope. Goethe said, take care of your body with steadfast fidelity. The soul must see through these eyes alone. And if they are dim, the whole world is clouded. Let's breathe into this practice together, knowing for each one of us, we are expanding our listening. We are stewarding our environment, and we are creating beautiful weather. Namaste.